Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to another episode of the Red Light Sports Ramble, presented by the Red Light Sports Network. I'm your co-host, Troy Otradovec, joined by the marvelous Evan Witalison out in the great state of Wisconsin. What's going on today, buddy?
Not a whole lot. I'm not, going to spend too much time because we do have a guest on tonight talking, some baseball, Brewers, trade deadline, and what's going on in L.A. right now. And with the weather the way it is, you would think we were talking October baseball, but it is actually July 1st. But let's Scott in the room now. How you doing, sir?
Hey, good, Evan. Good, Troy. How are you guys?
Hey, Scott. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Yeah, my pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, pleasure is ours. And, a lot of stuff going on in L.A., so I guess I'll ask you right away about that. GM resigning, interim GM, Albert Pujols allegedly trashing his teammates, and he's unhappy about that somebody said that he did. So what's going on in the Angels camp right now?
Yeah, it's total dysfunction is what's going on. I mean, Jerry DiPoto, the general manager who resigned today, was hired before the 2012 season, and him and Mike Scioscia, the manager, it's been a rocky relationship since day one. They feuded quite often in 2012 and 2013. They patched it up a little bit last year, and then it went south again this year. And it's a combination of DiPoto and his staff. They use a lot of not just analytics, but newer analytics stuff that leads to like defensive shifting, things like that. Scioscia and his coaches weren't buying into all of it, and there was basically a power struggle, even though Scioscia denied that at a press conference a little bit ago. And, finally DiPoto, when he found out that, owner Artie Moreno and President John Carpino were not going to back him in his locking horns with Scioscia, offered his resignation.
Yeah. Scott, and there's so many rumors that go around, and I know that for the listeners, Scott does reporting for the Bleacher-Report. I had heard today that there was that led to this was a recent feud, and that's where DiPoto went to management, wanted the backing, and he didn't get it. So that is why he cleaned out his office and basically left overnight. Is that the story that went down? Is that what ignited it, this recent feud?
Yeah, that's the general parameters are correct. DiPoto, he didn't feel that Scioscia and the coaching staff were using the analytical information enough that DiPoto in the front office was providing them. Again, specifically having to do with defensive shifts and how to pitch certain hitters in certain counts. And so last Friday, DiPoto met with Scioscia and the coaches and told them, look, you guys need to use some of this stuff that I'm giving you a lot more than you do. He was met with some resistance. So on Sunday, he met with them again, only this time in the clubhouse, and including all of the players. And so he's in the clubhouse, and he's telling the players, basically, I'm going to give you the information. The coaches aren't delivering it properly. That's when Pujols apparently stood up and snapped at DiPoto, basically said, look, the problem isn't the coaches or the analytics. It's the roster we have isn't as good as the one last year. Now, Pujols denied trashing his teammates when I was up there yesterday, but he didn't deny snapping at DiPoto. That's kind of a he said, she said thing. But the bottom line is Sunday, DiPoto, there was a very, very testy meeting in the clubhouse with DiPoto and Scioscia and the coaches, and And that's when, after that, Dipoto was upset. He and Socha had gotten into it. And, the story goes he went to ownership with an ultimatum saying, basically, this is an unworkable situation. We need to get rid of the manager. And they picked, Artie Moreno, who runs the show in Anaheim, the owner, said, we're going to, we're not going to fire Mike Socha and side with you on this. So Dipoto, feeling he had no choice, cleaned out his office, and that was that.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of chaos right now, as you said, very dysfunctional. But even with the dysfunction, they are having, some success on the field and play pretty well right now. A team that Troy and I follow very closely is, other than having their first 4-game winning streak since last August, the Brewers, a team we follow closely, who aren't doing very well, 32-48, 21 games out of first. Obviously, them along with the Phillies, they're probably the early sellers in baseball. What are you hearing in regards to the trade deadline coming up in about 30 days, and especially surrounding the Brewers?
Yeah, I talked to several scouts over the last couple of days, and the gist of it is that the trade market is still taking shape. It's a little bit on the early side yet. A lot of rumors out there, but with the second wild card team now in baseball, that's pushed things back even closer to the trade deadline, because so many teams now that maybe would have been sellers 5 years ago that are having a disappointing season think, well, maybe we can get back into it and win a wild card spot. And Kansas City last year getting a wild card slot and running all the way to the World Series, that's caused some of these teams that are maybe you would think of as pretenders, that's caused them to dream a little bit. And they think, hey, if we can get a wild card slot, we can do what Kansas City did last year. So, Milwaukee, obviously that ship has sailed. They're too far under 500. But, we'll see what they do. I think there'll be some interest in Francisco Rodriguez, their closer. Wouldn't be surprised to see him trade him. Starting pitching, everybody wants pitching. Matt Garza, Kyle Loesch, we'll see what happens there. Ramos Ramirez has been mentioned, but he's got such a unwieldy contract. I don't know that there's going to be much interest there.
Yeah, Scott, you bring up a couple names there with starting pitcher, and you look at the Brewers this year, and I think they caught lightning in a bottle last year with that pitching staff. Just lights out pitching last year to help them until their late season collapse. I want to turn my attention to a name maybe that Brewer fans will get mad at me, but would the Brewers consider trading Ryan Braun, in your opinion, at this time right now when you look at where this franchise is and being able to get value for him at this point in his career? I think they would. He's not anywhere close to the player he was. Clearly, we can surmise that, his MVP year, and for 2 or 3 years there, he was greatly boosted by performance-enhancing drugs. Theoretically now, ever since the suspension, he's not been the same player. At one time, he was the franchise piece in Milwaukee, but I think at this point, you have to listen to if there are any offers, you have to listen on any of your players if you're the Brewers. I don't think, again, with Braun's contract, I don't know, he's certainly not as desirable as he once was across the game.
Yeah, that's a pretty tough contract to move, but 2 contracts that aren't really tough to move. Names have been thrown out there that are very team-friendly contracts, but they are up in a couple of years. Guys like Gomez and Lucroy, which I don't really see them moving Lucroy, but would those probably be the guys that give them their biggest return?
Yeah, them and possibly the shortstop Gene Segura. There's some interest in Segura, I think, as well, and those 3 perhaps would give the biggest return right now. But I agree with you. Lucroy, I'm not so sure that they would move, but certainly if you're the Brewers, I think General Manager Doug Melvin is going to listen on anybody because they've got to be creative now because they've got a lot of work to do to get back to where they think they should be and where they hope to be.
I'm going to turn my attention, Scott, a little bit to Pittsburgh. I actually am born and raised in Wisconsin, but now live in Western PA.
Yep.
Pittsburgh Pirates right now. Having great success the last couple of years, and now you're looking at a team that maybe just needs to get over that hump to get to the World Series. When you look at their roster this year, what do they need to do to solidify and be able to compete, I guess, with the St. Louis Cardinals, who are just having another phenomenal year? What do the Pirates need to add here at the end of the year? Or can they just stay put and compete with the roster they have?
I think they're pretty close. I picked them to win that division coming out of spring training. Silly me. I mean, I guess the lesson of this year is you should never, ever pick against the St. Louis Cardinals because
exactly
what a phenomenal season they're having. I mean, they lose Adam Wainwright to a ruptured Achilles tendon early in April. Matt Adams has been out for a while with a quad injury. Matt Holliday's been out with a quad injury. And I mean, with every injury, you think, okay, now's the time they're going to start to fade and come back down to earth, and they never do. They're just, having one of those years you got to tip your cap to them. I think the Pirates are in real good shape the way they are now. Certainly you could always upgrade the bullpen. That's pretty much a given for any contender just about every July. The Pirates do that. Maybe add another bat. Some depth off the bench. There are areas they could get better. But I think overall, they need a combination of their own hot streak, and they have been playing pretty well lately, and also the St. Louis Cardinals to come back to earth.
Yeah, the St. Louis Cardinals, I think they could take a page out of Beck's book and just put a bunch of midgets on the field. I still think they would somehow find a way to win. But
they're phenomenal. They're a model organization.
Yeah, definitely they are. And there's two teams I want to ask about before I let you go, because I know we're running out of time. Two teams that are surprising everybody. One starting to come back down to earth a little bit, but the Houston Astros and the Minnesota Twins. Do they have enough to make a push for October baseball, or are they still a year or two away?
I think the Astros have enough now. I think the Twins may be a year or two away. The Astros, part of the reason I think they have enough is because they got off to such a great start. They had the best record in baseball for a while into early May, and they were about 15 games over 500. That built up enough collateral that they can sustain a little bit of a losing streak and still not fall out of it. So I think with that great start early, not to mention the talent they have. I mean, there's Carlos Correa, who has been as advertised since they've called him up. George Springer, Dallas Keuchel's having a Cy Young type season. They've got a lot of pieces, and they're a fascinating team because they hit a ton of home runs and they strike out a ton. It's all kind of an all or nothing offense. But if they can get some pitching, I think it'll be very interesting to see what they're able to do in July. I mean, I know it's going to be tough to get Cole Hamels. He's got a limited no-trade clause, and he can block a trade to Houston. But, if they can somehow land somebody like him or Johnny Cueto of the Reds or, any other starting pitcher and just beef up their rotation a little bit, I think the Astros are going to be around for the long haul this season. And the Twins, they just called up Miguel Sano today, who, along with Byron Buxton, they're a couple of their top prospects. It's too bad Buxton sprained his thumb and he's going to be out for about a month because that kid, Torrey Hunter told me this spring when I was with the Twins in Fort Myers, Florida, he told me that he called Byron Buxton Mike Trout II, Mike Trout the second.
Oh, wow.
And given that Torrey Hunter spent 5 years in Anaheim, and was there when they called up Mike Trout and helped take Trout under his wing and helped, break Trout into the majors. I don't take that Byron Buxton is Mike Trout the second comment lightly because Torrey knows what he's talking about. So I think the Twins are in good shape for the future with Buxton when he gets healthy, Sano, and the Kendrys Vargas and some of the other guys they've got. They can still use some more pitching. But yeah, they've come back down to earth. That 20-7 May they had was phenomenal. But now they've got a losing record in June, so they need